Alicia Kearns.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Amendment 105 is named for Benedict Blythe, who was just 5 years old when he suffered a fatal anaphylactic reaction at school after being exposed to allergens. No child should go to school anxious in the morning that they won't be safe, and no parent should fear at drop-off that they may never pick up their child again. But that, unfortunately, was the reality for Helen and Peter Blythe. And since that day, they have fought to make sure that every child is safer in school. Benedict's law will ensure that every school has a mandatory allergy policy, holds spare adrenaline medications on site, and that every member of staff is trained and knows how to protect children. 1 in 3 schools in our country currently have none of these things, but we wouldn't have known that if it were not for Helen campaigning for the Benedict Blythe Foundation. And that is why this law is needed. Madam Deputy Speaker, I want to begin by offering thanks to the Government. The statutory guidance committed to is a real step forward, and the announcement today that the Government will accept our amendment by laying it in the Government's name is welcome because it finishes the job, and it means that full protections will finally be in place. Every measure that protects a child with allergies is a good thing, and I'm so relieved that we've reached this point. I drafted the Benedict Blythe Amendment last September, and I want to pay tribute also to Harry Warren and my team, with whom I have campaigned throughout this time. When the amendment was put to the Lords, the Government whipped its peers to vote against it, and so I thank every noble Lord who voted for it because they brought us here today. Because the Government had told me that legislation was not needed. Yet when the guidance was announced, we welcomed it, but we did say it didn't go far enough, and that is why we pushed our amendment to a vote. We're glad the Government now recognises the guidance doesn't go far enough, largely because we were determined to push this to a vote. And we will need to see the wording of the amendment as soon as possible, because in the Lords we learnt that guidance can be given and guidance can be taken away. And there was a view that a threat of losing what little had been offered would deter Helen Blythe, and that misjudged her entirely. I'm willing to draw a line under it, but I put on record now that I want to see the Government maintain its resolve and make sure the amendment is laid. Because on Tuesday last week we received a letter telling all of us in this place the amendment would be voted down and was not needed. And on Friday that was still the Government's position, which is why they missed the deadline to lay their own amendment. I want to turn to the financing of this amendment. The Government does not plan to provide funding to schools for medications needed to protect children having anaphylactic shock. This is not the right approach. It currently costs the taxpayer about £9 million to provide additional adrenaline auto-injectors provided to children to take into school individually. By altering the distribution method, as the Benedict Blythe Foundation has recommended, the new measures in Benedict's law could save the Treasury £1 million a year. So just like defibrillators, which the last Conservative government funded for all schools, we're asking the Government to fund medications to save the taxpayer money. These savings are before you consider the estimated £1.5 million saved by reducing A&E and hospital admissions, improvements to school attendance and parent workforce participation. So I ask the Government to look again as they draft the amendment for the Lords. I want to close by paying tribute to Helen Blythe. Her ask has really been very simple. Benedict's life mattered, and his death must matter too. And that is why we come to this place, to protect those who need us, and I'm so proud to have been able to stand beside Helen in her fight. So I ask colleagues today, hold Benedict in your hearts tonight. I know that today is a good day, but a promise is only worthy of him when it is kept and when children become safer in our schools. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Sadiq Al Hassan.